1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty. Count 4, guilty. Count 5, guilty. Those are the first 5 counts coming out of this jury finding Donald J. Trump guilty on the first 5 felony counts. Reading the rest as we are getting it from our court reporters.
Starting with count 6.
Count 6, guilty. Count 7, guilty. Count 8, guilty. And you'll see on the screen we're tracking ahead. Count 9, guilty. Count 10, guilty. Count 11, guilty. Count 12, guilty. Count 13, guilty. Count 14, guilty. Count 16, guilty. Count 17, guilty. Count 18, guilty. Count 19, guilty. Count 20, guilty. Count 21, guilty. Count 22, guilty. Count 23, guilty. Count 24, guilty. Count 25, guilty. Count 26, guilty. Count 27, we're seeing that on screen, guilty. Count 28, guilty. Those are the first 28 felony counts here as read by the jury. Count 29, guilty. Count 30, guilty. Count 31, guilty. Count 32, guilty. Count 33 and 34, guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
Crazy, fellas, huh? Never thought this day would come.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is a day, as DC Drano has said, that will live in infamy. This is one of the days that our republic had its worst offense ever done to it. The first time ever a sitting president has been convicted in the court of law of a felony. It is going to be an incredible show, and not in a good way. We have a lot to talk about. David, catch us up on what's been going on. By the way, I'm sorry, guys. It's been a hectic day. This is the Breakaway USA News Show. My name is Fabian Garcia. And of course, as always, we have Mr. Kevin Fairs and Mr. David Kate. David, take it away.
Yeah, man, I don't blame you right there. I've been frustrated since the news broke out and in a bad way, not really understanding what's going on. Still trying to figure out all the details behind everything that's happening. But I never thought the day would come, especially so soon, where these words would come out of my mouth. But Trump was found guilty in a New York hush money trial, or in the New York hush money trial, found guilty on all 34 counts, 34 felonies right there. That's going to be the chunk of the show today. We're going to be seeing everything, the Trump's response from this, what the news outlets are spinning, what political pundits are saying, and of course, our incredible, unique commentary here. Retweet this, because this is probably going to be the best emergency live podcast of the entire day regarding this matter, because we're going to be delivering to you guys this unique perspective about what's happening. If we have any time, we might get into the terrified Biden. He kind of moved the DNC online, so that's a little interesting. And if we again have time, we'll get to Kev's quick hits, because we can't end the weekend in such a interesting day in American history without Kev breaking some stuff there. But
oh, there might be things broken today, and I'm telling you, it might even just be your minds with what I'm about to spew at you guys. So be ready.
Kev, today I approve of the breaking. I approve of the breaking today, Kev.
Exactly. Good. I was gonna say, this is the first time I'm like legit worried about Kev like breaking some stuff because this stuff's gonna make him a little mad there. But
very, very much so.
Obviously, everybody knows already the story, but just to summarize it, it's former President Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts of falsifying business records in a Manhattan trial related to hush money payments made during the 2016 presidential campaign. This historic verdict marks the first time a former U.S. president has been convicted of felony crimes. Trump is set to be sentenced on July 11th, which is just 4 days before the Republican convention, before they're going to finalized that he's the Republican nominee. So who knows what kind of shenanigans can happen now at the convention, and depending exactly how much jail time, if he gets jail time. But just a couple key points from this: the guilty verdict, Trump was convicted on all charges related to the falsifying business records. We talked about this numerously on this show. Following the verdict, Trump's campaign donation site experienced a surge in contributions, causing it to crash temporarily. So you guys can imagine the supporters are just rallying behind him. The political impact of this will be interesting to figure out in the coming days, weeks, months. The conviction is expected to have significant implications for the presidential elections, with various reactions from both supporters and critics. Some view the trial as politically motivated, while others see it as necessary measure for accountability. Well, that's interesting type of an accountability. And the next steps for Trump is essentially the scheduled sentence hearing that he has in July. And his legal team will most likely appeal that decision. But yeah, fellas, historic day in America. What do you guys think?
I was expecting this. I mean, think about this. So a lot of people are coming out and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised. Why? The Democrats did this, and when I even say the Democrats, so a lot of people say Joe Biden, and yeah, it's his DOJ, but we can't we can't on one hand be like Biden is incompetent and doesn't know where he is, and then on the other hand be like he's the one that orchestrated all this. No, he is not the one that orchestrated all of this. It's the puppet handlers, the people that got the strings, the people with the money. They're the ones who orchestrated this, utilizing Joe Biden. He was a corpse of a means to an end. And so this was going to happen. Why? Because I could go on a very, very long rant, and I'm probably going to. So let's strap in, folks.
Let's go.
First off, this was in Manhattan, in a state in which Donald Trump lost by major numbers. There was no way they were going to possibly get a jury that would at best, the defense would hopefully get a jury that had one person who is a diehard Trump supporter that could maybe cause it to be a mistrial. That was the best you could hope for before this. But statistically, looking at the numbers of the election, there was no way he wasn't going to get a biased jury that was going to be biased against him. That's the first thing. Second thing is, what did they want? They don't even necessarily need Trump in jail. They wanted to convict him of a felony because of how unprecedented this is. If you really think about it, we need to be calling out the conservatives that are like, Donald Trump just won 2024. He just won the election. No. Be smart about this, because that mindset is acting as if this is somehow over. No, he still has 60-some pending indictments in other areas of the country. So there's first off that. The second thing is he's already been convicted of one. Those other ones don't really matter. Those were all just there because they were like, well, if we can't get him on one thing, we're going to get him somewhere. Because now they can make a bunch of different arguments. Here's how the law works, everybody. Here's how the law works if you're an attorney, essentially, is if you want to do something, you find some level of precedent somewhere to even draw the thinnest line that says you can do said thing. Well, there is no precedent for what we currently have. And so there you're gonna have leftist liberal Democrat attorneys that are making arguments for literally everything. I guarantee it. We're gonna see headlines, and they're just gonna be a bunch of quick hits, Kev's quick hits, that are basically just gonna be state law from 1794 says that if convicted of ye old felony, then not considered for state representation. It's going to say some crap like that, and they're going to be like, well, because it says it all the way back then, that must mean that Trump can't be on our ballot. And then you're going to find it. They're going to go back in all these different state constitutions, all these different state statutes, all this case law, because election law is decided upon by the states. It's not a federal thing. It's controlled on. That's how they got away with all these different mail-in voting changes in 2020, because all these states fired up their state and local governments to change their laws real quick because they could. And so that's exactly what's going to happen this time. We're actually seeing play out before our eyes just a different version of COVID. They are making it so that now states have some level of a unprecedented precedent to find ways to keep Trump off the ballot, to prevent him from going out and campaigning, to who even knows, maybe even prevent him from fundraising, from getting money in certain states. I don't even know.
That's exactly what they're going to do.
That's what's going to happen. This is not the end, everybody. And so if you think Donald Trump won, if you think Donald Trump just won this election, you are false. He just had a blow that could make it harder for him to win, despite polling, because the people that are putting him in jail, the people that are doing this, do not care about democracy. They don't care whether or not you vote for him. No, they care about keeping the person that is anti-uniparty away from a position of power.
Yeah, and you know what? And here's the thing. People have a lot of common sense now. There are a lot of people who have woken up to the inequalities that happen in the judicial system, especially if you're a minority. So I tweeted this as soon as the verdict came out. I said Donald Trump is going to win even more of the black and minority votes because of this, because minorities have they understand how you get fucked by the system. Mm-hmm. And before I even saw the verdict, I knew what was going to happen. Kevin, I'm right in the same boat with you because what I saw was this. And these are the different jurors in the trial, some of the different jurors, and take a look at where they get their news from. Juror number 1, New York Times. Juror number 2, New York Times, had a Facebook account. Number 3, New York Times. For number 4, Google, New York Times. 5, New York Times. Like it's.
I agree with you. I want to point out something too, because I want you to finish your thought, but I want to point out something too, just so it doesn't seem like we're avoiding these things. Okay, so in these they said Daily Mail, Fox News on that first one. Other ones, does any other New York Post that's kind of somewhat conservative-ish?
Yeah.
Not like the most conservative, but I'll put it for the sake of argument. And I want to address that some of them do have that on there because it was not their first thing that they said. And so I'm willing to bet the way that they got this information is through a juror selection. And so these jurors, when they're being selected, they know people are not stupid. They know that this question is being asked upon them because the defense, if you don't say a conservative source, then they're going to try to dismiss you because they're going to know that you're a liberal. And so if these jurors want to be on this case, if they have a predisposition to want to convict Trump, then one that has half a brain cell will say, "Oh, I'm going to throw in Fox News in there," because
exactly,
and absolutely right,
to balance it off, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, they always say, if you want to get out of jury duty, act racist or say some outlandish thing when you go in, because they will dismiss you.
Or just say that you have somebody related to you that's a cop. 9 times out of 10, that'll keep you out of jury duty.
Yeah. So you actually have to be worried about these people when they say, I want to get Trump, so I'm going to say whatever it takes to stay on this jury.
Exactly. And that's the whole problem of prosecuting a former U.S. president. There's not a single courthouse in America that you can find anywhere in all of this beautiful land that will have a fair trial, because the jurors are always going to have some sort of political bias against that former U.S. president. I don't care if they're going to act like they've never heard of them or that they're not politically driven. It's the former U.S. president. That's why it's so dangerous. And, you got Fabian, you made that point that this is going to skyrocket the black vote. Like, he's already almost tripled the damn black vote, right? But I think you're absolutely right, because the thing that people forget about is that Trump won in 2016 on resentment, and that resentment was targeted towards immigration. Well, now that resentment is targeted towards the judicial system, and he always makes it so clear at his rallies that, hey, listen, they're doing this to me because they can, and they would love to do this to you as well. He makes it so clear that this is what they're going after. They're going after the American people by going after him. So I think that resentment, the one that was for immigration in 2016, this one while immigration is a little partisan issue, this isn't. This crosses across all party lines. So I think Democrats overplayed their hand. This was in their original playbook, but they didn't understand how much it will actually backfire against them. So I tweeted this a little bit ago. I'm excited to see what the polls are going to say, because originally, especially during the primary season, we all thought that if he's convicted, then that's it. We're doomed. No longer Trump drops into the 30s. But lately, as of the last couple months, especially the last month, we've seen polls that show, hey, if he's convicted, then he's still going to end up beating Biden. So interested to see what's going to end up happening now.
Yeah, and one thing that, and I'm speaking to a lot of my friends about this, people who are apolitical, who are Democratic, Republican, even the Democrats that I'm speaking to really can't believe this is happening. They're like, I can't believe he got convicted. And they're not saying that in a good way, like, I can't believe it. Yes, they're like, I can't believe it. So you have Democrats who can't believe this is happening. You see normal, middle of the road, regular Democrats, not these lefty Marxists. They still like America. They were born here. They live here. They moved here. They immigrated here. Their parents came here. To see this happen, this has never happened in the history of America. You need to understand that. And for this to happen now, even Democrats are saying, whoa, like hit the brakes. The other thing, and Trump said this a while ago, is now that he has been convicted, every president can be now convicted for whatever it is that they did during their presidency. And I promise you, what they have done is much, much, much worse than what Trump has done. So let's just go as far as Biden, right? The guy molested his daughter, took showers with his daughter. His daughter in the diary talks about this.
And she confirmed it too, right? That's the important part, is because you could be like, well, the diary was fabricated, blah blah blah. But if she's on record, saying
she's on record, and screw all of that. How about Obama? He killed a U.S. citizen abroad, right?
Yes,
in a country, I believe Yemen, right? In an unauthorized
drone strike.
Exactly. So it's crazy stuff. And Kev, I wonder, do you know what are the implications of him receiving a state felony conviction in terms of his his qualification essentially for being a president?
Okay, so technically, at least by federal standard, he can absolutely be president within, Article 2 of the Constitution, I believe, is what outlines the executive branch. Article 2. I just want to, before I get absolutely destroyed in the comments, I want to make sure that I'm right. Article, the executive power of the president. So if you look at Article 2 of the Constitution, where it describes what you can be, or what the qualifications to be president, then it basically describes the age, which I believe is 36. 35. It describes 35. I think isn't it 35 to run, 36 to be elected. Maybe I'm wrong there, but something like that. It's because it can change based on by the time you enter into office, 35 maybe. But so you have that. You have to be a legal United States citizen that was born here, not necessarily an immigrant. You have to actually be born or naturalized. Like if you're like John McCain technically could have been, despite the fact that he was born abroad. It was technically on U.S. soil because it was through a military base, and both of his parents were in fact United States citizens at the time. And then I believe that's pretty much it. There's nothing about criminal convictions. There is nothing about anything else. Like literally, as long as you meet those things, so he can be president, but that's qualifications based on the Constitution to be president. That's not qualifications to run for president. So that's what I'm saying, is that he can absolutely be president. And you're going to hear everybody on the news, left, right, and center, say, this doesn't disqualify him. This doesn't disqualify him. This doesn't disqualify him. Because that's not technically wrong. What they're not going to tell you is that your state legislatures, especially any Democrat in your state legislature or anybody a part of the Uniparty, is currently looking into as much case law as humanly possible to see what they can do about disqualifying him from running, from fundraising, from being there. Period. They might even look into how they can prevent his merchandise from being shipped to their state. Who knows? It's technically interstate commerce because of Congress, but I'm just saying they're going to look for every
Yep.
single possible way.
Yeah, and because this has never happened before, there is no case law that's going to dictate what happens next. So these guys have a carte blanche to try to invent anything they possibly can in their state. We already know that Colorado and a few other states try to remove Trump off the ballot for something he wasn't even convicted of. Imagine what they're going to try to do now because he was actually convicted. And I want to go back to the minority vote, especially the black vote, and all these rappers and stuff now jumping on the Trump train. That really started happening after Trump had his mugshot taken. Yep. It went absolutely viral. T-shirts and all the rappers started wearing a shirt and say, "I'm with Trump." Imagine what that's going to do now. You're going to have a plethora of people who are going to understand, especially if this keeps happening. If this happens over and over and over again, they're going to know, look, at some point, logic tells me if this has never happened in the history of the United States, and now it's happening over and over and over again to one guy who didn't hurt anybody. He caused no wars. He caused 1.4 inflation, which, as he says, it's actually healthy. You don't want no inflation because that's bad too. Exactly. The guy who had gas at 99 cents a gallon. Why is it that they are going after someone who did such a good job? Logic and reason are going to come in, and there's going to be a lot of people discussing this exact same thing and having differences of opinion and talking about it.
Fabian, I want to kind of build off what you said there. Imagine what they're going to do, because we've seen them try and take him off the ballot and they got stopped by the Supreme Court. I just want you to imagine this scenario that Trump wins on November 5th, November 6th, because we know we'll take extra days to count all those ballots, right? But imagine, right, that you wake up, right, and he wins. He wins Michigan, he wins Pennsylvania. And then Democrats, the Secretary of States in those states, refuse to certify the election because he's a convicted felon. And they'll find whatever reason that they can, and they won't certify the election, literally. How, first of all, that's a very possible scenario right there, and I can't imagine what will happen. But imagine the hypocrisy there, because knowing that in 2020 Democrats lost their shit because Republicans essentially tried to do the same thing. So just imagine that scenario, that you just wake up and he won the election, but Democrats or Secretary of States who are Democrats in those states refuse to certify the election. Very possible, because he's a convicted felon now.
No, absolutely. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say, is that they will stop at nothing. It doesn't matter. You, like I said, and you will, and I think it's also important, and because I said it earlier, but I want to make it clear, is you'll see, like, if you're watching your nightly local ABC News or whatever you have locally, even your local Fox, and they say, no, don't worry, like, this is still, you're still going to be able to vote for Trump. Trump is still going to be, like, he's still able to be president. They're going to say that. And they're going to say that, and then it'll be just like a really quick headline that your state is actually working very hard to not let Trump be president. That's what's going to happen. Why? Because they know that it looks bad. They know that people are like people aren't that stupid. They think they're stupid, but they know that they aren't that stupid. So they're gonna make it seem like, hey, everybody, don't worry. He's still there. This is just because we want to protect the system. We want to protect the system. That's what they're trying to do, is sell the idea that they're protecting the system.
Absolutely. And I do want to play Trump's response when he left the courthouse, or as he exited the courthouse, because it was really, really important. It's really important to hear the first words out of the president, the first president ever be charged with anything like this, anything at all. Actually. Absolutely. So let's check this out.
If you'll hold on just a second, we see President Trump now. He is walking out. Let's listen.
Trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a sore respect DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
You know, one thing he did say there that I really like, he said, November 5th is the real verdict. And that, I think, was a mic drop moment, because he said, just wait and see. Now, the thing that we don't know is, what is this judge going to, well, what kind of conviction is he going to give Trump? Is he going to throw him?
You mean
Is
what
he going
kind
to
of
throw him in
sentencing? Are you
jail?
talking sentencing?
Sentencing, sorry.
Yep.
Is he going to give him house arrest? Is he going to give him probation and a fine? Like, what is he going to do? If there's any indication, if we have any indication based off the way that this judge has handled the case, which I know we have to get into this esoteric, novel way of actually convicting someone where you don't need a unanimous decision or vote to convince someone, and there's no real crime specifically. It's any crime you want, and we'll get into that. But if he does try to throw Trump in jail, does that help him, Kevin, even more?
Well, here's the thing: is it's absolutely clear. Even a person who doesn't support Trump, you'd have to be so like blinded. You gotta have like your eye, like you gotta like basically be coming for Biden, like have your glasses on that you think Biden is like a hot, sexy person, like as if Biden is on the cover of Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition or something. Like that's how you got to be looking. If you do not see that the fact that his sentencing is 4 days before the RNC, if you don't see that and also recognize that, hey, maybe there's at least a little bit of a political implication to this, like that maybe this isn't about the quote unquote no one is above the law narrative that all these dumbasses are trying to push, you would have to be so stupid to not see that this is political. You would have to be incredibly, and so when you're asking me like what could happen or anything like that, I absolutely believe that he might even, I wouldn't even be surprised if he's like, you know what? I'm going to be nice to you, Trump. I'm going to give you 1 week in jail and a $250,000 fine. I could see him doing something like that, because 1 week in jail means that the presidential candidate will not be able to attend his own nomination, his own party's convention. I could see that. Now, do I think that's actually what's going to happen? I would not put my money on it. I'm not saying that's the most likely, but what I'm saying is that just about anything is likely or could happen, because yeah, okay, it could be house arrest. It could be a 1 week in jail. It could be 6 months in jail. It could be just a fine. But I could see him doing something that would keep Trump out of the convention, keep him away from the convention.
Yeah. And that convention is July 15th. And I believe you said, Kevin, that the sentencing is on July 11th. Is that right?
If I'm remembering correctly, it was just a few days, if not even the day. I'm pretty, in the tweet that I saw from Donald Trump Jr., I think it said 4 days. I think
here's the interesting part. So, okay, so 4 days before. So we have about a month or so, just over about a month and a week or so before this happens. There's going to be an absolute firestorm in the next few weeks. I really believe, because all bets are off at this point. Yep. Everyone showed their cards. The Democrats took action. And again, just to kind of sidetrack for a quick second, there are very evil, Marxist, communist, anti-American people who have been assigned to the judicial system, unfortunately. There are people who dislike America and who believe in things like critical race theory and that we are a hegemonic power that should not have the power that we have. And we've spoken about this many times on the show before. When we, and I say we, meaning just Americans, conservatives, just in general, believe that we win a fight, let's say like Columbia, or sorry, Harvard, where we got Claudine Gay, the president, to resign. When we think we win these battles, in actuality, we're not winning because they are destroying the fabric of the institution that was once emblematic of what America is. The leftists and the Marxists, they talk about themselves, they call themselves a virus in how they infect. So what they will do to win is they will destroy an institution and the image and the power that the institution have, especially the presidency. Lower that to a point where the world laughs at it, where nobody wants to be associated with the United States. We get to have things like BRIC, which is another currency that is developing on the East, try to overtake the dollar. Everything they can do to knock the US down a peg or two means that we diminish in power and diminish in our ability to portray our power and our Western values around the world. And that, I think, is one of the most dangerous things that is happening here, is they are diminishing the office of the president, not only with Trump, but also with Biden, allowing him to fall, allowing him to literally crap his pants, allowing someone on stage who can't even put two sentences together. Everyone is laughing at us. And that, I think, is the most dangerous thing happening right now.
They sure are laughing at us. And actually, the funniest thing out of all of this is that we go into certain countries, create, destabilize the place or whatever, and put our puppet in there because we want to introduce democracy for the exact same thing that is happening here in America. A person prosecutes their political opposition, puts them in jail, does everything they can to undermine the free and fair elections that we're supposed to have here. And now we're doing the same exact thing. So Putin, he's laughing, right? We're fighting for democracy. We don't even have democracy here in America. So all of our adversaries are just sitting back, laughing, and saying, look at that banana republic over there. Look at that kangaroo court that they got going on in there. It's absolutely crazy, guys.
Quickly, I just want to say one thing about that, is that America, the dollar is a preeminent currency because we have stability. You have stability. That's why no one wants to use the Argentine peso right now until it's fixed, or the Venezuelan money, because it's not stable. If you destabilize the American society, American economy, the American dollar, other countries will start looking for alternatives that is more stable. Nobody wants to hold a bunch of American dollars in their banks if they know that the situation is absolutely disastrous here. And this is something that they are going after.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's important to talk about with this, so I have family. I am by far in all of my family, like the most conservative, now probably the biggest Republican-ish, kind of Republican, biggest supporter of Trump for this next election. Not that I really have Biden family, but like it's I have a lot of people in my family, extended and everything, that are like, I just wish he didn't say such mean things all the time. Like I have those kinds of people. And so I have people that are telling me, they're like, what really just makes me mad about all this is that, well, Trump, had he just like stepped aside and let another candidate be the presidential candidate, then we could actually be getting to the real issues, like the southern border, the economy, blah, 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 blah. And I go, I understand where you're coming from. They still don't love this answer, but I think this is a good response to that. And I'm curious your guys' thoughts. But I was not originally for Trump because I didn't want I wanted this election to be about the other issues. With how far this has gone, with how far these indictments have gone, to the point of which Trump is now even convicted of a felony, for which, by, like you said, a kangaroo court, I firmly believe that actually, yes, southern border, huge issue. Economy, huge issue. A ton of other huge issues. However, when we do not have, just as you guys were saying, when we do not have any trust, any faith in our current institutions, that needs to be the biggest and forefronted issue in front of each and every one of us. And so this election does not have to be about the issues of Donald Trump's indictments or anything like that. It doesn't have to be. Now, that might be what the media is spewing at you. That might be what your local ABC or your WGN is yelling at you. However, if you use even another fraction of your brain, then you will realize that if you want to focus on the southern border, if you want to focus on the economy, if you want to focus on whatever other issue, I don't know, cutting off children's genitals and fighting against that, if you want to fight for parental rights, if you want to focus on all these other issues, then there is one person that you should vote for so that we can, because there is one person that is making it, one person and all the people behind him, that is making it so that we cannot, and that is our current president of the United States, that is using the full force of the executive branch and the bureaucracy that surrounds it to ensure and try his absolute best to not elect the person that actually will solve some. I'm not going to say all, I'm not going to give him that much confidence, but some of our problems.
100%. And, here's the thing. All of this now, all of the media and all of these legacy media organizations, the New York Times, NBC, you name it, this is all they're going to talk about, and they're going to flood the airwaves to make you forget that we have an open border, that we have sky-high inflation, that we have a democracy, an economy that is failing, that we have a democracy failing too. Not that we are a democracy, but democracy is failing. That we have a president who took showers with his daughter, who his daughter in her own diary said that she was molested, that she was turned on at a young age, that she was having sex a lot at a very young age. We have a president whose son is a crackhead who bangs hookers with crack pipes in his mouth, who I don't know who in the Biden family refuses to be around him because he's so creepy, where he's texting her incessantly. This same person is in Ukraine threatening to withhold aid to people in Ukraine because his dad wants him to do something. This is the same president that has said across his time he's been extremely racist. He's done nothing good for the people. So although these media agencies are going to want to turn your attention to say, oh my gosh, Trump paid a porn star money, that affects me absolutely 0%. What does affect me is when I leave my house and I see the homeless people and the drug addicts and the sky-high prices in gas, and I see people mentally unhealthy, mentally unwell, and unfit as well. That is what I see. So I don't care about this, even though it's important. I know the real issue is what they're trying to obfuscate us from to not look at.
I totally agree with you, Fabian. Sorry that I keep going in and out there, guys. I guess the Biden administration really doesn't want me to be on tonight talking about all this stuff. But Fabian, just to pedal off what you were saying there, I just sent into the chat production if we can maybe open up the YouTube clip that I sent in. But New York Post already kind of ran a poll about this, if he's convicted or if people will actually change their mind if they're convicted. So I think we can play this. I think we may have to read what's on the screen. So if anybody wants to volunteer.
Trump is found guilty. The majority of Americans would not change their vote in November, even if the former President Donald Trump was found guilty in his hush money trial. With 67% of respondents in a new NPR NewsHour Mars poll. Hold on, let me go back.
That was pretty quick.
Confirming that a guilty verdict would not sway the presidential vote. 67% of people.
Yep.
Interesting.
Wow. Among Republicans, 64% said a guilty ruling would make no difference, while 25% said it would make them more likely to vote for the former president. Just 10% said a conviction would make them less likely to vote for Trump. 75% of Democrats said a Trump acquittal in this case wouldn't change their vote in November, so they weren't going to vote for him anyway.
Yeah.
Well, 8% it would make them more likely. Wait. 8% of Democrats said it would make them more likely to vote for Trump. What?
Boom. Yep.
Wow. Independent took the least issue with the guilty verdict, with 74% of the demographic saying it wouldn't impact their vote.
Fellas, you guys remember what I was literally saying on this show Tuesday night? I was like, the American people could care less about these indictments, these trials, all this stuff. When the border is wide open, the economy is pretty bad, the costs of goods are higher. People don't care about this stuff. People might have cared about something perhaps to deal with national documents, right? That's national security, whatever. But this hush money trial thing, falsifying business records, falsifying business records, something that pretty much every single businessman is doing. The reason why so many New Yorkers like Kevin O'Leary is pissed off about this and are thinking about taking their businesses out of New York is because they understand the precedent that this sets on them as well, right?
Absolutely.
So, look at that. The independent poll right there was the most obvious thing for us. Americans, the average Americans, not the Democrats, the average Americans could care less about this.
Yeah. And I think when you really look at what this is all about, like I said, people are not going to care. Once the shock value wears off, like, oh my gosh, Trump is guilty on all 34 counts by a 95% Democratic county or whatever the city, I don't know exactly what, but people are going to say, okay, like, what does that have to do with the country? What does that have to do with me? What is that going to do when I see Biden stuttering and falling and crapping his pants and falling off bikes and saying that a bridge in Baltimore cost I think he said $1 zillion or
Yeah,
$1 bazillion dollars, that his dad or that his brother was killed by cannibals. That, I mean, it's just insane. And then you have school bus lady and Kamala Harris, who's no better, and she's like twice as young and she's just as dumb. Like, it's a completely inadequate administration. And quickly, I do want to read something that it really struck me. And it was posted by DC Drano on his Instagram. And I want to quickly pull it up, production, if we can get that up here, because it said something really important. It says, May 30, 2024, a day that will live in infamy. The Marxists were hiding and infiltrating our government at all levels for decades. Yes, they were. Trump lifted up the rock and exposed them. Now they're lashing out in desperation to keep their control. 2024 is our last chance. If Trump retakes power, it's all over for them, and they know it. So they weaponize their Marxist judges to imprison Trump because they know they can't beat him at the ballot box, even with all their fraud. May God bless America as we enter a new era, an era where we, the people, retake our country and severely punish those who try to destroy it. We will be victorious in the end. And if that's not a battle cry, I don't know what is. I love that he wrote that and made that statement.
I do as well. Again, because this is historical, it's unprecedented. And my pops and I were actually talking about this. He's like, will this be a civil war? And I'm like, Pops, you always say the same thing. People still got something to eat. They got a roof over their head. People are still comfortable, but which is the negative aspect about this, because I feel like our founding fathers would have wanted us to do something about this situation right here, because this is literally what they were talking about: a government that becomes too big, too tyrannical, that oppresses the people, because now it does seem like they're taking the ability for 70 plus million people to vote for a president. And it's very unfortunate. So I love what DC Drano wrote right there. And I'm glad you pulled that up, Fabian.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I think it's important to take in a lot of different accounts, and there was even one of which, in a lot of different ways that people are seeing this. And I think this trial specifically, and I didn't want to let it be understated, the discussion of Kevin O'Leary, who is a very prominent New York businessman and has been on multiple networks talking about a lot of different things in the last year or so, including but not limited to this trial, as well as the Dylan Mulvaney scandal and everything. And he never comes at it from like, oh, I'm a Trump supporter. He's not really. From everything I understand, he actually is a moderate Democrat in his tradition. And so I sent a clip production of Kevin O'Leary, I believe yesterday on Fox and Friends in the morning. And he talks very briefly about the poor precedent that this sets. And I think he does discuss a little bit on the business side as well as on the political side. And I feel like a lot of average Americans, despite him being a very wealthy business individual, I just titled it Clip Production, by the way, too, because I'm lazy. But I really think that it's important to take a look and listen to what he says because he is not only well known in the media, but also he got where he was by practicing business in New York City, in a place in which many people, like you just said, David, practice business and real estate, and it's known even as a place like even like a tiny little apartment is incredibly expensive, and that's part of which that Trump is people talk about his crimes. But let's take a look and listen at this.
This is an American president. This is the office of the United States of America's highest office. And we're doing this. This is sheer stupidity. And I'll tell you what should happen. This should be pushed until after he wins or doesn't win. This should be not part of this election cycle at all. And this is not a Trump-loving comment. This is about the American brand where I bring capital from all around the world to invest here. We look like clowns.
Yes.
I hate this. Yeah.
Yep.
There you
Absolutely.
go. Simple,
We
to
look
the
like
point.
clowns.
Again,
There you go.
we look bad when it comes down to how we look on the international stage. It's bad for business people that are in New York. It's bad for the average Americans. This is just very, very bad on multiple fronts. We literally can't underscore it. This is not just a political disaster. I would compare it to launching literally a political nuke at this institution of ours. But this is impacting things on a much larger scale on multiple fronts, and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Absolutely. I do want to pull up the Breakaway USA website for a quick second because it has something very, very important. And there's this quote, and Michael from the New Guards and Breakaway USA, he actually introduced me to this quote because this is his signature quote for starting the New Guards, and this is where he also got the name. But it says, "When a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security." This is in the Declaration of Independence. And David, you were speaking about this earlier about, your father talking about Civil War and things like that. And you say, our founding fathers kind of said, hey, if this happens, this is your duty. And I feel like this is just another step closer to get there. Unfortunately. And the second thing I do want to say is I want to harken back to this. When people tried to say Trump did this, right? Trump paid a porn star money. Well, I'm in a mini spat here. One of my comments I made is going, it's not going viral, but it's getting some visibility. And some gentleman here, he said, paying grown women sniffing little girls, saying that paying grown women is worse than sniffing little girls. Because what I said is, I said, I'll take a president that pays a porn star money over a president who starts wars, opens our borders, and shits his pants. And my response to this person saying, it's worse than paying grown women is worse than sniffing little girls. Is I said, how about taking showers with his daughter and molesting her, as Ashley Biden says in her diary? So I really feel like this, like everyone watching, and whenever someone speaks to you, you could always point to something like that and say, this is the person. You can point at Hunter Biden. You can show him the pictures in his laptop where he's banging hookers with smoking crack pipes. You can see the text messages that are on there where the family is saying, do not let Hunter Biden near, I don't know, I think it's a cousin or something like that, who's like, I don't know, very, very young, because he's so damn creepy. This is a family that is in office right now. This is what you are potentially voting for because you're mad that a grown adult had a consensual relationship with a porn star, and then, according to this jury and whatever, paid her money, and now she is what? And now he's unelectable because of that. Look, If you have ever paid or know someone who has or pays a porn star on OnlyFans, think about what that's doing. You're saying anybody who pays any money to porn stars, oh my gosh, anyone that that pays anyone on OnlyFans, you're unfit because you pay a subscription monthly.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with men, abusing women. Come on.
See, that wasn't my first thought. I actually just went. Let's pull up that tweet again because I just commented on that tweet, and I think it'd be important to see because this
Live
is where
Mitch show.
this is where my head went with it. I thought the FBI because I'm like, I would
not
rather
wrong.
kind of what Fabian was saying, but like I'd rather have somebody who like was into people over 18. And could legally consent than somebody who is sniffing little girls. So if this guy thinks that it's weirder to be into adult women than it is to sniff little girls, then maybe there's something there. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Just possibly.
Allegedly.
In
Minecraft in I don't know. For legal reasons I don't know, and I'm not making any accusation. I'm just saying maybe
just maybe
It's just like Dave Chappelle says when he's talking about Michael Jackson and when he was when he was in trial about touching kids. He said, who knows? He goes, who the fuck knows? God, Michael, and the kid. Reserving judgment. I'm reserving judgment is what he says.
Fellas, or production, I think I put in the private chat that a former vice president, Biden, he came out and released a statement responding to the verdict.
Vice President Biden. I
wanted to address him by the appropriate title. So yeah, if production, if we can maybe pull up former Vice President Biden's response to the verdict, that would be fantastic.
Former Vice President.
Respect the office.
Reaction tonight from President Biden's campaign statement coming out minutes after the verdict. Let's go to the White House and CBS's Ed O'Keefe. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Nora. The president will not be seen tonight in any way to react to the verdict. The only official comment from the White House came from the counsel's office saying, quote, "We respect the rule of law and have no additional comment." In a written statement, the Biden re-election campaign said in New York today, "We saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain." And it reminded Americans that convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president. Biden remains in Delaware tonight with his extended family, having spent the day privately marking the 9th anniversary of his son Beau's death. Campaign and White House aides have said the president's reaction to the verdict is expected to be modest, understanding that for most Americans, opinions on Trump are already made. The verdict isn't expected to sway a large number of voters in battleground states. To that end, a recent CBS News poll found the majority of Americans believe Trump is definitely or probably guilty of the charges he faced in New York. And yet, CBS News polling continues to show a tight contest between the current and former president in key battleground states. Just minutes after the verdict, the Biden and Trump campaign sent fundraising appeals to supporters with less than a month until their first scheduled debate, as you mentioned. Trump told his supporters, quote, "I'm a political prisoner." While the president said to his, quote, "There's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box."
All right.
There's something that I did want to mention here is, and this video kind of brought it to my attention. There's going to be an incredible amount of polling that is going to be happening in the next few days since this election came out. Guys, I want to pose this question to you. If all of these polls happen in the next week and we're doing our battleground state update as we do every week, and the polling does either A, not change, or B, increases in a good way for Trump, what happens at that point? If the Democrats are like, dude, we literally convicted this guy. We pulled out all the stops, and his damn SOB is just getting more and more popular. What do you do in that point? Do you continue to try to convict him and maybe get him even more popular? What do you do?
Well, This is actually a good time to look at the polls that I tweeted today. So production, why don't we keep
We can
those
pull
up
those up
in a
because
second?
I have a quick answer.
Yeah, go for it.
We can
Go
bring
for
up
it.
those polls.
Go for it.
My first thing that I would say is that to the Democrats, they wouldn't be surprised. Once again, it's about they're going to try to pull out all the stops at the state level. They're going to mobilize state officials to look into case law, to try to make every argument they can under the sun, especially in those battleground states, to see what they can do to hinder, if not totally take Trump off of the ballot. Along with that, then the second thing I would say is that you'll also have people, because once again, this is just the beginning. He still has 60 some other counts, one of which is the one regarding January 6th in DC. And so when you have that one, that one's a lot more palatable. That's the thing, is like, yes, they got a conviction on the fraud case in New York. But that one's not really sexy, and your average person can't totally comprehend exactly what he actually got found guilty of in a quick and easy like news clip like that. In a 2-minute clip, you can't totally get everything. You know that Stormy Daniels is involved and she's a porn star, and maybe there was some hush money, and you know that Michael Cohen was involved and maybe he was the lawyer that did, like, you can kind of get the gist of it, but you still don't totally understand it. However, everybody saw January 6th unfold. And so to these Democrats, they still have not played all their cards in their heads. I mean, like, so to them, they'll be like, oh, okay. But the reason why that one didn't work in New York is because people didn't really understand it. They'll understand Trump started an insurrection. Insurrection. And even though Americans don't believe it, if we say it enough, and we get a biased jury, a biased judge, a biased justice system to convict him on some level of an insurrection, or at least something tangentially related to January 6th, then we can just call him an insurrectionist, treasonous, and hey, treason gets the death penalty. Maybe we even go for that. Like, again, a lot of this stuff might sound crazy, and I'm not going to stand here and say, like, I believe this is 99% happening, but I'd give it like 10%. Like, I think 10% of me says that yes, they're going to go for the death penalty in the January 6th case. Like 10% of me. Again, I'm not like uber confident. I think it's out of the realm of major possibility. But just because something is improbable doesn't make it impossible.
That is very true. That's a good take on it, honestly. And I haven't really even thought about the January 6th case, because I know that it's not going to be happening until after the election now, which is relatively nice. And I don't know. I mean, look, I really don't know what these polls are going to read in the next coming days, weeks after this conviction. But I do know that we have existing polls that aren't too friendly for Biden by any means. So, like, for example, you have them tied in Virginia.
Wow.
Like 43 to 43 in Virginia. And Kev, you're talking about this a few weeks ago. This is a big possibility of Trump actually winning Virginia. So taking a couple things into perspective here, if we know that majority of independents especially could care less about Trump's conviction, then I feel like the polls are only going to get better and better, especially talking about that resentment that I was talking about earlier in the show. More people are going to feel some sort of resentment for it. Now, this Rasmussen report poll that came out was actually shocking. I just want to take a second to read it. 54% of Democrats now approve of dumping Biden. Nearly half of voters, including majority of Democrats, think it's okay. It's okay for the Democratic Party to replace President Joe Biden with another candidate.
This is exactly what we've been speaking about for months now. Crazy how that happens, isn't it?
It is. And shout out to Breaking Points for this little graphic right there, because they had a little segment today about DNC's plans to even nominate Biden on a virtual roll call. So all of this, if you're somehow a person that was super confident about Joe Biden a year ago, seeing one thing after another, especially seeing their plans to hold a virtual roll call, should be a little panicking for you. And yeah, you got 42% strongly approve of dumping him as a presidential candidate. Democrats, not Republicans, Democrats. So will be very interesting to see. I don't think anything can really help the Biden administration right now. An attempt at, on former President Trump, that's only going to raise his polls. Convicting him, I'm pretty sure it's only going to raise his polls. The only way that they can block him from coming into office is by some sort of shenanigans, and we'll see those. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting, guys, and I want to pull this up here, is we already have the first inclination on how people are receiving this verdict. Because if you haven't been taking a look, the Trump campaign donation site has crashed after the guilty verdict. Last I checked, it was completely down. This is the image that Trump has released now, political prisoner. And many people look positively on political prisoners, no matter if you're from a communist country or if you're from a democratic country. But let me go ahead and just read what this article here says from Axios. Former President Trump's fundraising page temporarily crashed after he was found guilty of all 34 felony counts in his hush money criminal trial in New York on Thursday. The big picture, the WinRed donation platform used by Trump's campaign and other Republicans was hit by an outage as Google searches for Donald Trump donation site, and other related searches spiked in the wake of the verdict. The American people see through crooked Joe Biden's rigged show trial, the Trump campaign said. So many Americans were moved to donate to President Trump's campaign at the WinRed pages that it went down. We're working on getting the website back online as quickly as possible. You know what? This, guys, now it's starting to all make sense to me. I've been speaking for 2 weeks about how the Biden campaign has been incessantly sending me emails, because obviously I do opposition research every single day, 4 times a day, to the point where I'm like, I may just unsubscribe, but I want to see what's going on. They might have been like, hey, he might get a massive surge of support, so let's try to at least match the numbers, because May 30th, it just happened. June 1st is in 2 days. They're going to look at the fundraising numbers for May and June. And if Trump is still trouncing Biden, that is going to be a huge sign that voters are sticking with with Trump, and even supporting him more because of the campaign numbers, not the poll numbers, but the actual campaign fundraising numbers. That's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree, and I do like to see a lot of these things, and I don't want to be the proverbial wet blanket on this by any means, but I always want, like I said nearing the beginning of this show, is like, do not fall into the trap of saying Trump just won 2024. He just won. No, we're not going to know if Trump won until I'd say like November 10th of this year. With how ballots have been going and everything like that, it's going to be like at best November 7th or 8th. Like that's really the way I see it. We're not going to know that Donald Trump actually won. There's going to be appeals in court. There's going to be recounts potentially. We are not going to know whether or not Donald Trump won then. And so to sit by today and just be like, well, I donated my $10 because I know he's going to win. It's great. Go donate. And I'm happy people are. It's great. Be supportive. I'm happy people are. It's great. People pledge their vote. But until you cast that vote, until we have those results, Trump has not won. And so do not do as the Republicans tend to do and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, because that's what we saw in 2022. And that's what we've seen plenty of times, in which everything seems in favor of Republicans. And somehow, because of their hubris and overzealousness, we underestimate the cheating, the lying, and the power of Democrats and their subsiding uniparty.
That's absolutely true. And that's exactly what we have to be on the lookout for. I have no idea why such big accounts are celebrating, conservative accounts, celebrating, yes, this is going to be a landslide win. It is going to probably be a landslide win, but don't celebrate too early, because we were on a big red wave, tsunami red wave during the midterm election. that didn't happen. It kind of broke as
The
soon
red
as it hit the East
splash
Coast.
at best.
Yeah, it splashed and it broke in the East Coast, right? It hit New York, Florida, and it just died off there. But the main thing that I just keep on having to always just, I have to, this has to be the loudest thing out there. Every poll shows us the same thing. Trump is in the lead. The people down ballot are not. The senators are not. The House members are not. You need to make sure that we have a majority in the Senate, especially because there's going to most likely be a point in Trump's presidency in the second term here where he'll need to nominate a Supreme Court justice. And we better make sure that we have a majority in the Senate, because the Democrats will not forgive us for what we've done to them with the last two Supreme Court justices nominees. Well, not the last two, but
The two during Trump.
Yeah, well, not allowing Garland to be essentially heard because it was the last year of Obama's presidency. But 6 weeks before, or 3 weeks before the election in 2020, we confirmed Amy Coney Barrett. So let's go.
Well, you know what? I would argue that those nominations by Trump are essentially what is saving our country right now to a certain extent.
And also, like, here's the thing: is I'm not going to deny the hypocritical optics of it, but at the end of the day, that's what they are: is their optics. And Obama, at the end of the day, chose not to because he knew Republicans wouldn't pass it. It's not because Obama was trying to be this altruistic, peaceful leader or anything like that. No, that's not who Obama is. No, Obama didn't do it because he knew he wasn't going to get anybody through. Trump could. Trump did. That's exactly what happened. And so, let the optics be hypocritical, because Democrats never obviously care about the optics. Democrats do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it, and they find a way to try to spin it, and they do through their government-funded media.
Absolutely. And here's a big difference between a Trump nominee for Supreme Court and a Democratic nominee for Supreme Court. And this is not being facetious. This is completely accurate. The Democratic nomination for Supreme Court justice does not know what a woman is. That's the exact God's truth. They asked her, what is a woman? And she said, I don't know. I'm not a biologist. Okay. This is the kind of ridiculousness. I'm going to say retardedness. One would even say faggotry, as the Pope said yesterday. YouTube, do not boot me off. This is the Pope's word.
Just quoting the
Pope. I'm just quoting the Pope. This faggotry that they love swimming in. This is what happens when the Democrats select a nominee in this day and age. Do I want to see Supreme Court justices that have to rule on the most hardest decisions that we have as a country? Justices that can't identify what a woman is? I think at that point, I'd rather take a 5-year-old, because that they have more sense than someone who can't understand or define what a woman is.
Well, that's what happens when the nominee is based on affirmative action, right? I mean, we know that literally this woman that doesn't know that she's a woman, apparently, because she's not a biologist, is a result of affirmative action. They right away.
I wonder if she's colored, David. I wonder if she knows she's a black woman.
Who
no, because she doesn't know she's a woman. So how does that work?
It's too complicated for her because, she's not a biologist, and apparently she might not even be a human. But I like that we're on this. I like that we're on the Supreme Court discussion and stuff like that, because this is what I feel like people don't think about until the time comes for it. A lot of people are fixated on the presidential election, which they should be. That is very important. It's important who's in the White House, who's the head of the executive branch. But don't forget that you can't get a lot done without the legislative branch. And if the judicial branch is blocking a lot of the ways that those other two branches can operate, then you're not going to be able to achieve anything that you want to, especially to institutionalize certain traditions, values that we all hold here. So it's so important that we start to talk about what the hell's going on in Arizona. Why is there a 9-point difference between Kari Lake and Trump?
Yeah.
Why is the same thing happening in Pennsylvania, for example, with the senator there? I can't remember the name there, but we got to start talking about that stuff as well.
Well, and that's even why I say, like, let's think back. That's why I'm always Donald Trump 2016 did not trust the polls. Donald Trump 2016 said the polls don't matter. The polls don't matter. The polls
Yep.
don't matter.
They don't.
Why is it now? And while they do look good and they're outside margins of error, like oftentimes he's winning outside of the margin of error, and that's a good sign. Why is it now that all of a sudden Donald Trump trusts all the polls? And I don't love that. Like, I got to admit, like, I don't love that. I'm voting for him. We just spent an hour and 9 minutes, like, kind of speaking very positively of the guy. But let's be honest, like, 2016 Trump didn't trust the polls. He's even become less trustworthy of the media, but now all of a sudden he trusts their polls, and that they're like, no. That's why I say it is not over until it is over.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the polls, great. We're gonna keep talking about them. We're gonna discuss them there. But David brings up a great point. There's a difference. Hillary Clinton was gonna win by a landslide in 2016. We all saw how that worked out. So the polls can say what the polls want to say, but be ready. We still have several months until November. So,
You know, one thing about exactly this thing, this situation, is that the voters that go and show up and go out to vote are the voters that feel the most strongly. The voters that don't show up are the ones that don't really like it, or don't really like the candidate, or don't really feel like they have anything in common with the candidate. What do you guys believe is going to happen to the voters that are supporting Trump? Personally, I believe that this is going to enable them, that this is going to activate them even more so, and have an insanely high voter turnout for people who see this as an injustice, for the people that see Trump as having this perpetrated onto him by a corrupt legal system. And I believe personally, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, that they're going to show up in even higher numbers than anyone had ever thought. I may be wrong, but that's how I feel.
I definitely think so. And first of all, I think Democrats are going to have a lower turnout than in 2020. I think because I think that they are pissed off at Biden for hilarious reasons, by the way, things that I disagree with them. But hey, doggy eat doggy, whatever. So I think that the Democrat turnout is going to be super low. And there's going to be a lot of this, boycott voting and whatnot, right? Voting for other parties and whatnot, while the Trump is going to have a big surge. It maybe not a surge, but it's definitely going to be comparable to the 2020 numbers, which is historically high election. I believe 68% voter participation across all America. I think that it's going to be comparable to that, if not a little bit higher, because of the resentment factor here. Again, because people after this conviction who would have never thought that it would align with Trump at all are going to feel some sort of way and are going to sway towards him. And I feel like things like we're already seeing in Virginia happen, where they're tied, is a factor of this.
no, and I don't want to necessarily disagree with you, but I kind of have to disagree with you guys a little bit.
Please
on this,
do.
because once again, I gotta be the wet blanket. I gotta be the wet blanket. I have to, because today is May 30th. November 5th is election day. We can predict and sit around all we want, but 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking about how all these college kids were taking over campuses in support of terrorists. We were talking about how the Palestinian flag was being raised right next to the American flag. That's what we were talking about. Not too long, and then after that, we talk about so many different things. Every single day, we have a different news story. And sure, maybe sometimes we have slow news stories. Some take up more time than others. But we have an America that has goldfish TikTok brain. And so while, yes, today is like 9/12 and a lot of people are really united against the American government because of the absolute, like, practically domestic terrorist attack, proverbially, against Donald Trump that just occurred. Yes, everybody might be united on that. Who knows? Maybe the next, I don't know, George Floyd happens on November 3rd of this year. And then that's what everybody's focused on. Maybe somehow when you're driving to the polls, you see gas at $2.45 because somehow somehow Joe Biden pays off all the gas stations to make it really cheap for while you're going to the polls. And that changes your mindset on the day of the election. This is the problem, is that we can try our best to think about how it's going to be. But do you remember the first TikTok you watched today? Do you remember it? Can you tell me exactly what it was? Probably not.
I can't, because it was my grandma's TikTok that is going extremely viral right now.
Okay, I digress on that point. But again, we have TikTok brain. I have it, you have it, we all have it in some way. And while we are all politically active, so we know who we're voting for as of today, there are people where they wake up and they're like, oh man, it's election day. I guess I should go vote. I just saw on my friend's Snapchat that he went and voted, so I'm going to go do that. Let's look at what my feed says today. Oh man. Oh, it looks like a lot of people are saying Biden's doing a really good job. I guess I'll vote for that guy. There are people that genuinely think like that. That's the way they operate. And it infuriates me, but you have to account for it. And that could be the 1% of people that decide the 2024 election. So sure, we can look at all these things, but I do think what I will agree with you on, David, focus more on the legislature, because if we can get Congress, if we can get even just the House or the Senate, it'd be ideal if we could get both. But if we could get just one of those, then even if Biden is reelected, we can stop like 90% of the agenda.
Yeah, it'll be a lame duck president for his second term, which will be fantastic.
I don't think he lasts a second term. But there's guys, I do want to pull up something. Brianna, and I haven't seen this, but Brianna, who is part of Breakaway USA, she's a member of Breakaway USA. She just posted this on X. I don't know what it is, but I know it's about Trump. So let's, as Kevin says, let's take a look and a listen.
Right.
So while the left is celebrating Trump being found guilty in a court case with a Soros-backed DA, a court case that will likely be overturned, I would like to remind you all that Jeffrey Epstein's clients are still walking free. See, Jeffrey Epstein is the first man in all of history to be convicted of trafficking young girls to no one. They have the black book, they have the flight logs, but these people walk free not because of who Jeffrey Epstein was, but because of who the clients are. See, Jeffrey Epstein visited the Clinton White House 17 times, according to guest logs, and you don't see the justice system doing anything about that. Or Hillary Clinton's emails. You don't see the justice system doing anything about the fact that Ashley Biden's diary was legally confirmed to be authentic. A diary where she talks about taking inappropriate showers with her father, plus a whole bunch of other things. You also don't see the justice system going after the Bidens for their foreign business deals. Or what about all the insider trading that goes on in Congress? Yet here we stand. And the brainwashed are going to be brainwashed. There are people who believe anything the mainstream media tells them. But I think it's so painfully obvious to anyone on the center, anyone who's been paying attention to this trial, that this was nothing more than a political stunt to keep an opponent out of office. Democrat Party leaders and operatives told Politico that they are preparing for the worst in November as Biden shows few signs of outperforming Trump. They are terrified. This is a shameful day for the American justice system. It's expected, though, to be honest. Anyways, cry more, libs, and we'll duke it out in November, yeah?
Yeah.
Whoa, Brianna just killed it with that video.
I love
But look,
at the end.
I agree with her, man. That's exactly what we're saying. There's so much crap going on right now. They're trying to use this as a red herring. Like, hey, look at this over here. Look at this here. Don't focus on everything else happening. That the FBI literally has the logs of all Jeffrey Epstein clients. They have videos, not only his clients, but now Diddy's clients. And no one's talking about that. Diddy's in Miami partying.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on? Right?
We
Where's
literally
Obama?
have video evidence of him beating his ex-girlfriend. And I haven't seen it. Is there an indictment yet? No indictment.
Zilch.
Of course.
But they're
Nothing
gonna say,
new.
Look at Trump, guys. He did his business ledger was modified in a bad way. Like, what, dude? Jeffrey Epstein was literally, and Diddy were raping people, underage girls. Joe Biden's son smoking crack with hookers. He's not allowed around some of the people in his own family because he's such a creep. He was in Ukraine taking bribes and millions of dollars Like, come on, guys. Like, oh, last thing I want to say about this. We were talking about the oil prices being lower potentially when people go to the ballot box. And this is probably why, because Joe Biden has decided to drain the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to its lowest levels in 40 years. We have this is pretty wild. So if you don't know what this is this is the reserve that we have in case anything happens in the Middle East, in case there's a situation where we can't get oil. How are we going to survive as a country? This is what we have. And under Trump, this red area here is under Trump. And it hovered around 650,000. And if you look at what Biden has done, is he's literally cut that by half almost. We are now at only 350,000 barrels of petroleum, which is oil. That's scary.
It would be one thing if this was somehow diluting the price of barrels on the market, right? And was like actually hurting Iran. But the mullahs are fucking bankrolling right now.
Bankrolling.
and
Russia
we're
is also bankrolling.
Yeah, and we're depleted on our reserves. We're not fracking. We're denying new leases. We're not allowing, drilling in the United States. People are claiming that, we're drilling the most we've ever have. Okay, maybe that's something that I believe Trump put in place, but we have to check into that. But what I do know is that there isn't any new sort of fracking. They're denying any new leases or
Yep.
exactly. So this is very alarming, honestly. And we're supposed to be talking about that, but instead we're over here talking about them convicting Trump for falsifying records. And mind you, also the orchestrated, I would say, attack against him from every single angle, because it was one indictment after another, 2 in New York, 2 from the attorney general, and then this rogue DA for 2 various different reasons. And it's crazy. And then you have Georgia, you have the DC case, you have the Florida case. I mean, wild. This is what the current status of American politics.
And quickly, I do want to say that this is one of the main reasons, everyone watching, this is probably the most main reason why you have expensive gas, is because there's something that was called a Keystone pipeline that was expected to carry 830,000 barrels per day of Alberta oil sands crude to Nebraska. It was ready to go. It was basically done. And Biden revoked the key permit to allowing this to open. 12 years. The project was delayed for 12 years. It's finally done. A 1,200-mile project. And Joe Biden decided once he got into office, almost as soon as he got into office, to cancel the key permit. And it is no longer a thing. And in order to even get it restarted, it's going to take years, because this stuff has been sitting there for now almost 4 years. This is what Biden has done. Not only did he do this, but he also drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that we had. Now, you tell me, what matters to you more? Donald Trump, changing a ledger, or the fact that as a country, we're in a very dangerous position. We don't have energy independence right now, which we had under Trump.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
No, and this is exactly what I was saying is yeah, sure. If the election were held today, I have no doubt that today, the day that Trump gets convicted, yeah, he'd probably win the election. But there's been 1,000 different things in the news in the last 3 weeks. We have months before the election. So
Yep, I agree.
Strap in, everybody. Strap in. We're just getting started. We're just getting started.
Yeah, but hey, come November, I feel like people finally have a clear understanding of what they're voting for. One side is actually going to fix America and make America great again. And the other side is going to continue playing the same playbook that they've continuously played over and over, where they put the people in the very back and they put their lobbyists and their personal interests in the very front. And they're going to continue going after your rights. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty damn simple comparison now. You had 4 years of Trump. You have 4 years almost of Biden. Take your pick. November 5th, you, the people, are the true verdict. You're going to deliver the true verdict.
Yep.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Fellas, what do you think? Any last thoughts?
So yes, I quickly have a last thought because I have something else that people aren't focused on. It's just so much. We are witnessing political stock trading history. Tuberville's HUMA trade is up another 17% today, and now 200% since its filing came back on April 15th. A politician making bank on a war company while sitting on the Armed Services Committee. You gotta love it. They are not only siphoning all of the tax money that we're paying as Americans and sending it to other countries instead of fixing the problems that we have here at home, but they are also draining people's money by sucking it out of the stock market by investing in war companies when they sit on the board, on the committee that essentially decides what happens to us in a political manner. This is just absolutely insane. But no, guys, but focus on Trump. Don't focus on this.
Yeah, and I
Don't
just
focus
lost
on
like
this.
$80 in the last few weeks on AMC. What the hell is that? Come on, Nancy, if you're gonna manipulate the stock market, at least help me with some AMC.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I have a tracker of like Nancy Pelosi's trades, and I remember when she entered Nvidia 6 months ago, and Nvidia, if anybody has seen, has grown so much in these 6 months. It's absolutely crazy. It's actually I forgot, it's like 3-4 years ago, it was $1 billion or $2 billion company. Well, today it's about 7% away from being or outbeating Apple in its market cap. Its market cap is quite literally bigger than almost every country's GDP except 7 countries. Well, she invested in Nvidia, bought some options into it, and just off one single option that she bought, she's up about $65,000, and she buys millions of dollars of options. So she's increased her net worth hundreds of millions this year. It's absolutely crazy. So,
by the way, guys, quickly, I just got a text that says there's a crowd of MAGA supporters at Donald Trump's star on the Walk of Fame right now.
Oh, you might have to go investigate.
You should go. Don't you live like a mile from that, Fabian?
I live in the vicinity from it. Yeah, not that close, but I wish.
Sorry,
actually, I don't.
I know. I probably shouldn't dox you in front of everybody.
Don't dox.
Oh no,
exactly.
That's not what I meant.
I live in Hollywood. Hollywood's not that big. But yeah, guys. So yeah, a lot of crazy news today.
It is a lot of crazy news, and hey, we've been on here for an hour and a half. I think that we should start to wind it down. So,
absolutely, and that's we're not. We're not gonna. I mean, like, this is the thing. Is like I said earlier, this is just the beginning, everybody. And so make sure you go follow not only Breakaway USA, but follow me, Speechless with Kev. Follow Fabian on everything. Follow David, Khait, Kate.
Boom.
Khait,
there you go.
Whatever Jewish name that is.
We'll go with Kate.
But so we got that. And so follow all of us, and not just us. Check out Freedom 2.0. I don't know if we gave them a shout out today or not, but Freedom 2.0 does a lot of great work with creators like us and other creators as well that talk about these issues in a way that the lamestream media never will. So make sure you guys are liking this video, but all of our content, subscribing, resharing, commenting, because while Donald Trump, many see him as the last thing, as the last person standing between freedom and tyranny, we're definitely, I would say, a part of that wall too that's built, because without people that are willing to come out and say it like this, willing to go through the shadow bans, the potential doxing, the death threats, the assaults, the batteries, everything like that. And not just me. Again, there are a lot of people that do a lot more work and a lot better work than I do. But without all of us and without your support, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to stand up against the corruption that we see on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. Kev knows how to close down the show, as always. Appreciate it, guys. And I think Trump will be having a press conference tomorrow, so maybe some of us will be live streaming that. So just be always on the lookout for Breakaway or any of our accounts. And till next time, fellas.
Till next time.
See you everyone.
Yep.